There are moments in life when the weight of grief feels unbearable, when every day is a fight just to keep breathing. For one father, losing his wife meant losing his sense of home, his stability, and almost his hope. With bills piling up and hunger at the door, he tried to be strong for his children, even when he felt broken inside. Then, one ordinary night, a simple request from his kids set into motion a chain of events that would change everything. A stranger's kindness, a chance at redemption, and the discovery of a miracle he never expected, hidden in plain sight all along. Do you believe in second chances and life-changing moments that arrive when we least expect them? If yes, like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Dad, can we go out for dinner? Like other families do. The words left my daughter's lips so softly, almost like she was afraid of breaking me with them. My son looked at her, then at me, wide-eyed, as if she had just asked for the moon. I forced a smile, the kind that felt stitched together by trembling threads. Dinner out, huh? You two aiming fancy tonight. They both giggled. That sound. It was the only thing that reminded me life still had light in it. Inside, though, I was crumbling. Since their mother died, every day had been survival. Bills stacked on the table, like a wall I couldn't climb. Jobs slipped from my hands faster than I could hold them. Some because I was late, some because I was too broken to show up with the energy they wanted. Grief doesn't care about rent dates or electricity shutoff warnings. And food. God, food was a daily battle. Groceries calculated to the last coin. Rice, bread, eggs when I was lucky. I hadn't tasted meat in weeks. The kids didn't complain, not once. But I saw them staring at classmates' lunchboxes at school. I saw them glance at glowing restaurant windows when we walked home at night. Now here they were, asking me straight. I swallowed hard. You know things are tight right now. My voice cracked on the word tight. My daughter nodded quickly, too quickly. It's okay, Dad. Forget I said anything. That cut deeper than hunger ever could. I leaned forward, brushing my son's messy hair back. You want dinner out too, buddy? He whispered, just once, like other kids. Fries, maybe a burger. I bit my lip until it hurt. They weren't asking for the moon. They were asking for something every child should have once in a while. And here I was, wondering if I could manage it without emptying what little was left in my wallet. Inside my head, a storm raged. If I spend that money, what about groceries tomorrow? What about the bus fare to work? But then I looked at them, my daughter with her wide eyes, my son shifting nervously like he regretted even asking, and something inside me broke. I whispered more to myself than to them. They've lost enough already. I can't take this too. All right, I said louder, forcing steadiness into my voice. Get your shoes. We're going out tonight. Their faces lit up instantly, like someone had switched on the sun inside our dim little apartment. My daughter squealed and hugged me tight, while my son punched the air and shouted, "Yes!" I laughed, though it came out shaky. Hey, don't get too excited. We're not heading to a palace. Just a small place, okay? Doesn't matter, she said, holding my hand, as long as it's dinner out. Her words stabbed me again, not because they hurt, but because they showed just how little they expected. My kids weren't asking for luxury. They were asking for a memory. I walked into the kitchen, opened the cabinet, and stared at the near-empty shelves. 2 eggs left, half a loaf of bread, and a handful of rice. My stomach tightened. This has to last if I do this. I pulled my wallet from the drawer. A few crumpled notes. Some coins. Not even enough for a proper week's worth of groceries. My hands shook. Am I being reckless? Or am I finally being a dad who gives them more than survival? I shut the wallet and shoved it back into my pocket. No. Tonight, survival could wait. Tonight, they deserve to feel normal. Ready? I called. They came running. Shoes half-tied, laughter echoing through the hallway. My daughter slipped her tiny hand into mine. My son grabbed my other arm and swung on it like I was his anchor, and maybe that was all I had left to be. As we stepped out into the night, the cool air hit my face, carrying the smell of fried food from the nearby streets. My son pointed excitedly. Dad, can we get fries first thing? I chuckled, trying to hide the knot in my throat. We'll see, buddy. One step at a time. My daughter squeezed my hand tighter. Thank you, Dad. 3 words. That was it. 3 words that almost dropped me to my knees right there on the sidewalk. Inside, my heart whispered the truth. I don't know how I'll make tomorrow work. I don't know if this is the right choice. But tonight, you'll smile. And that's worth everything. With trembling resolve, I gathered the last of my money, guiding them toward the glowing sign of a cheap diner at the corner of the street. The neon light flickered like it was barely alive, just like me. Still, I prayed under my breath. Please let this one night be enough to remind them their father loves them more than anything. And with that prayer, I pushed open the diner door. The bell above the diner door jingled as I pushed it open. Warm air and the smell of fried food wrapped around us. And for a second, it felt like stepping into another world. My kids' eyes went wide, like we just walked into a palace instead of a rundown corner diner with cracked leather booths. Whoa, my son whispered, tugging my sleeve. It smells amazing. I smiled. Told you we'd find something good. A waitress glanced up from behind the counter, giving us a polite smile. Table for 3? Yes, ma'am, I said softly. We slid into a booth near the window. My daughter traced her finger along the table's surface, eyes shining. Dad, this is like in the movies. You know, when families eat together in a place like this. Her words stung. How many times did I fail to give them even this small moment? I cleared my throat. All right, let's look at the menu. The laminated pages were sticky, the kind you wipe too many times. I flipped quickly to the cheapest section. Fries, a burger, kids' meals. My heart raced as I did the math in my head. If I ordered nothing for myself, it might just work. What do you guys want? I asked, forcing cheer into my voice. Burger and fries, my son shouted without hesitation. Me too, my daughter said, eyes sparkling. I nodded. All right, 2 kids' burgers with fries. I closed the menu and handed it back before they could ask for more. The waitress smiled and jotted it down. Anything for you, sir? I shook my head. Just water, thanks. She raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. As soon as she walked away, my daughter looked at me. Aren't you eating, Dad? I grinned, patting my stomach. Already full. I had something earlier. It was a lie, of course. The last thing I'd eaten was a slice of bread in the morning. But watching them now, bouncing with excitement, I felt fuller than any meal could make me. My son leaned across the table. This is the best day ever. I laughed. You haven't even gotten your food yet. Doesn't matter, he said. We're out, like other families. Those words hit me like a knife, but I swallowed the pain. I nodded. Yeah, like other families. The food came quickly. 2 steaming plates set down in front of them, fries golden and burgers stacked high. Their eyes went wide, and before I could say a word, they dove in. Careful, I chuckled. Don't burn your mouths. My daughter giggled with her cheeks full. It's so good. I just sat there, watching. Every bite they took was etched into my memory. Their laughter, the way ketchup smeared on my son's chin, the sparkle in my daughter's eyes. It was worth every coin in my pocket. Dad, my son mumbled through a mouthful, you really don't want to bite? I shook my head. Nah, buddy, that's all for you. Truth was, my stomach growled so loudly I had to press my hand against it. But I ignored it. Tonight wasn't about me. Tonight was about giving them this moment. As they ate, I glanced around the diner. A few families, a couple eating quietly, and one man sitting alone in the corner. His plate was half finished, but his eyes weren't on his food. They were on us. I stiffened. Was he judging us? Pitying us? I hated that look. My daughter tugged my sleeve. Dad, you okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, just making sure you two enjoy every bite. They didn't notice the man, but I did. Every time I looked up, he was still watching, not with malice, not even with pity. Something else. Something I couldn't name. The kids finished their meals in record time. My daughter leaned back, hands on her belly. I've never been so full. My son burped, then covered his mouth. Sorry. I laughed quietly. That's all right, buddy. Means you enjoyed it. When the waitress brought the bill, I handed over my crumpled notes with shaking fingers. It was nearly everything I had left. As she walked away, I exhaled slowly, the weight of tomorrow crashing back into me. But then I looked at my kids, glowing with happiness, and thought, maybe tomorrow can wait one night. We slid out of the booth, ready to leave. My daughter slipped her hand into mine, whispering, "Thanks, Dad." "Always," I murmured, kissing the top of her head. As I turned toward the door, I felt it, the man in the corner rising from his seat. His steps echoed softly behind me. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm, almost hesitant. I turned, my heart thudding. He looked at me, then at my children, and said, "You remind me of someone." And before I could answer, he pressed something small into my hand, a folded note. The folded note sat heavy in my palm, like it weighed more than paper ever could. My first instinct was to shove it back at him, tell him I didn't need charity. But my kids were looking up at me, curious, and I couldn't make a scene. I cleared my throat. Thank you, but..." The man raised his hand, stopping me. "No strings. Just open it later." His voice was steady, kind. I nodded stiffly, tucking the note into my pocket. My pride burned, but something in his eyes made it hard to snap at him. They weren't mocking eyes. They were knowing. My son tugged my sleeve. "Dad, what did he give you?" "Just a piece of paper, buddy," I said, forcing a smile. "We'll see later." The man gave a small nod, then walked back to his table. He didn't push. He didn't hover. He just sat back down, as if his part was done. We stepped outside into the cool night. The neon sign of the diner buzzed above us, flickering. My daughter looked up at me. "Why'd he give you a note?" "I don't know, sweetheart." I ruffled her hair. "But we're not going to worry about it right now." Truth was, I was worrying. Every nerve in me screamed to throw it away, to prove I could handle life without strangers stepping in. But another voice whispered, "What if it's something we need? What if it's hope?" We walked the 2 blocks home. My son skipped ahead, humming, his belly full. My daughter stayed close, holding my hand like she never wanted to let go. At the apartment, I closed the door behind us and finally pulled a note from my pocket. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. "Dad, read it," my son said, bouncing on the couch. I hesitated. "Go on, open it," my daughter urged. So I did. The words were simple, written in careful handwriting. "Come back tomorrow morning. Same place. Bring the kids. Breakfast is on me." My stomach twisted. "Breakfast?" My son gasped, eyes huge. "He wants to buy us breakfast?" I rubbed my forehead. "Looks that way." My daughter bit her lip. "Are we going?" I stared at the note again. Pride roared inside me. I didn't want my kids thinking we needed handouts. I didn't want them growing up seeing their father beg. But then another thought clawed its way in. Was I already giving up meals so they could eat? Wasn't I already failing to give them what other kids had? I sat heavily on the couch. I don't know. "Please, Dad," my son whispered. "Just one more meal? You didn't even eat tonight." His words hit me square in the chest. Kids notice more than we think. I looked at them. 2 pairs of hopeful eyes staring back at me, eyes that had seen too much struggle for their age. I sighed. "I'll think about it." They nodded, but I could see the spark of excitement already glowing in them. When they finally fell asleep, I stayed awake, staring at the note on the table. My mind raced. Is this a trap, a trick, or is it just kindness? And if it's kindness, why me? I pressed my palms to my face. "God, I don't need help, but I do, and it's not for me, it's for them." The night dragged on. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, but guilt gnawed harder. I had lied to my kids. I had told them I was full when I wasn't. And now here was a stranger, offering something I couldn't give them on my own. Finally, as the first light crept through the window, I whispered into the silence, "Tomorrow, I'll take them back. Just this once." I picked up the note, folded it carefully, and slid it into my pocket again. My chest was tight, my pride in pieces. But when I looked at my children sleeping peacefully, their faces soft and innocent, I knew I would swallow every bit of pride I had left if it meant they could wake up to one more day of feeling normal. Morning light spilled through the thin curtains, too bright for the little sleep I'd gotten. My kids were already stirring, whispering to each other in that excited way that only children can. "Dad," my son said, crawling onto the bed, "are we going?" "To breakfast." His words hit me before I'd even opened my eyes fully. My daughter hovered by the doorway, waiting. I rubbed my face. "You too sure wake up fast when food's involved." They laughed, and for a moment, the weight on my chest felt lighter, but the truth pressing again. My pride, my doubt, my fear, it all wanted to chain me to this apartment. Still, I found myself saying, "Get dressed. Let's see what this is about." Their cheer shook the walls. By the time we reached the diner, my hands were sweating. I kept thinking I should turn around, but my kids marched ahead, their energy pulling me forward like a tide. The stranger was already there, same corner table, sipping coffee. He looked up, smiled warmly, and waved us over. "Glad you came," he said. I cleared my throat. "We won't stay long." "That's fine." He slid menus toward the kids. "Order whatever you like." Their eyes widened as if he'd handed them keys to a kingdom. "Really?" my daughter whispered. "Really?" he said. I leaned closer to him, lowering my voice. "Look, I don't want charity. I can pay for her." He cut me off gently. "You already paid last night, with your courage. You brought them here even when you couldn't afford it. That's love. Let me handle the rest." I froze. His words pierced deeper than I expected. The waitress came, and the kids ordered pancakes, bacon, eggs, the works. I asked for just coffee, but he raised an eyebrow. "Order something for yourself," he said firmly. I hesitated, then muttered, "Toast." He chuckled. "Baby steps." As the kids devoured their plates, the man leaned back. "My name's Michael." I nodded. "Thanks for this, Michael. But why us?" He stirred his coffee slowly. "Because I've been where you are. Lost my wife 10 years ago. Tried raising my boy alone. Nearly drowned in bills and nights of loneliness. People helped me back then. I promised myself, if I ever got the chance, I'd pay it forward." My throat tightened. I hadn't expected that. "Where's your son now?" I asked. "College. First in the family." His eyes shone with pride. "Wouldn't have made it without strangers who gave us a hand." I looked at my kids, syrup all over their faces, giggling like they hadn't in months. Maybe this was what help looked like. Not pity, but a bridge. Halfway through breakfast, my daughter leaned toward me. "Dad, can we come back tomorrow too?" I swallowed. "We'll see." Michael smiled. "No pressure, but you're welcome any time." My pride still wrestled inside me, but I managed to quiet. "Thank you." He nodded, as if he knew how much those 2 words cost me. When we left the diner, the kids skipped ahead, happier than I'd seen them in ages. I walked beside Michael for a block. "I don't know what to say," I admitted. "I feel like I'm failing them." He stopped, looked me square in the eye. "You're not failing. You're showing up. Every day, even when it's hard. That's what fathers do." Something in me cracked. I hadn't heard words like that in years. I managed a shaky breath. "Still, I don't know how long I can keep this up." Michael put a hand on my shoulder. "Then don't do it alone. Let people in." That night, as I tucked my kids into bed, my son whispered, "Dad, today was the best." My daughter added, "You didn't even look sad at the diner." You smiled. I kissed their foreheads, heart aching and healing at the same time. When the apartment was finally quiet, I sat at the table, staring at my empty wallet and that folded note. Michael's words echoed in me. "Don't do it alone." For the first time in a long while, I let myself believe maybe I didn't have to. Michael's words stayed with me through the night. Don't do it alone. But by morning, the doubt came rushing back. I wasn't used to leaning on anyone. Depending on a stranger felt dangerous. As I packed my kids' lunches, 2 peanut butter sandwiches, nothing fancy, my daughter asked, "Dad, are we going to see Michael again today?" Her voice was so hopeful it hurt. "We'll see," I muttered, sliding the sandwiches into plastic bags. "But he said we could." My son chimed in. "He said any time." I forced a smile. "We don't want to bother him. He has his own life." The truth was, I didn't trust myself. The more Michael offered kindness, the more I feared what it might cost. That afternoon, I was at the store counting coin for bread when I heard a voice behind me. "Short again?" I turned. Michael stood there, a small smile on his face. Heat rushed to my cheeks. I had it covered. He glanced at the counter. "You're 20 cents short." My fists clenched. I said I had it. The cashier looked uncomfortable. Michael gently placed $1 on the counter. "Keep the change," he told her. I grabbed a bag of bread, shame burning me alive. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said, "but I wanted to." On the walk home, he caught up to me. "You think I'm judging you," he said. I kept my eyes on the cracked sidewalk. "Aren't you?" "No," his voice softened. "I see a father fighting like hell for his kids. That's not weakness. That's strength." I stopped walking, finally looking at him. "Then why does it feel like I'm failing every second of the day?" Michael sighed. "Because you're carrying too much. You need someone to lean on, even if it's just for a moment." That night, after the kids were asleep, Michael came by with a bag of groceries. "Before you say no," he said quickly, "think of it as a trade. You let me do this, and in return, you'll help me fix the sink at my place." "Deal." I frowned. "You don't even know if I can fix a sink." He grinned. "Something tells me you'll figure it out." For the first time, I didn't argue. I just took the bag, set it on the counter, and whispered, "Thanks." Later, sitting across from him at my kitchen table, I finally asked, "Why are you doing this?" "Really?" He leaned back, thoughtful. "Because I remember what it felt like to wonder if I could make it one more day. Someone showed me I could. Now it's my turn." I shook my head. "But what if I can't pay it back?" "You don't pay it back," he said quietly. "You pay it forward. Someday, when you're on your feet, you'll do the same for someone else." I lay awake long after he left, staring at the ceiling. The cracks in my armor were showing. For years I'd built walls around myself, convinced that needing help made me weak. But Michael wasn't tearing me down. He was holding me up, and for the first time, I wondered if letting someone in wasn't failure at all. Maybe it was the only way to survive. The next morning, my daughter bounced onto the bed, her hair wild from sleep. "Dad, can we go see Michael again?" she asked. Her brother popped his head in from the doorway. "Yeah." He said we could come anytime. "Please." I rubbed my eyes. "You, too, are relentless." They giggled. But I couldn't ignore the spark in their eyes. It was hope, something I hadn't seen in a long time. "All right," I said finally, "but only for breakfast. And no asking for dessert this early." Their cheers nearly rattled the windows. Michael was already at the diner when we arrived. He waved us over like we'd been friends for years. "Morning, champs," he said to the kids. "Hope you're hungry." They slid into the booth like they owned the place. I sat across from Michael, folding my arms. You don't have to keep doing this," I told him quietly. "I know," he replied easily, "but I want to. Besides, your kids brighten this place up, don't they?" The waitress laughed as she poured coffee. "They sure do." The kids grinned like they'd just been handed medals. Halfway through the meal, Michael leaned closer. "You ever think about getting some extra work? Something steady?" I tensed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Relax," he said. "I'm not judging. Just asking." I sighed. "I've been trying, but it's hard with them. Babysitters cost money I don't have." Michael nodded thoughtfully. "What if I help you look? Maybe even watch the kids a few hours when I can." I almost laughed. "You babysit? For free?" "Why not?" he shrugged. "I survived raising one. 2 can't be that much harder." I shook my head. "I can't ask that of you." "You're not asking. I'm offering," he said firmly. "Later, While the kids were finishing their pancakes, my son asked, "Dad, can Michael come over today?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "What?" "Yeah," my daughter added. "He could see our place and maybe play a game with us." Michael raised an eyebrow, smiling. Sounded like an invitation. I hesitated, pride pulling one way, their joy pulling the other. Finally, I muttered, "All right, but just for a little while." The kids hooped. Back at the apartment, I braced for embarrassment. The place was small, cluttered, worn. I saw every flaw through Michael's eyes. But he just looked around and said, "Cozy. Reminds me of my old place when my son was little." The kids dragged him to the floor, showing him their board game collection. Soon the room echoed with laughter, his included. I watched them, my chest tight. My kids hadn't laughed like that in months. When they finally went to bed, I walked Michael to the door. "You didn't have to stay this long," I said. He smiled. "I wanted to. They're great kids. That's because of you, you know." I shook my head. "I don't feel like much of Dad most days." He looked at me seriously. "The fact that you worry about that proves you are. Bad dads don't care. You do." I swallowed hard. Words caught in my throat. Before he left, he added, "Let me help, even just a little. You don't have to carry it all alone." That night, I sat by the window, thinking about everything he'd said. I hated needing help, but when I'd seen my kids laughing with him, carefree, happy, I couldn't deny it. Michael wasn't just feeding us. He was giving us something I hadn't been able to, moments of peace. And maybe letting him in wasn't weakness. Maybe it was what we needed. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was drowning alone. The next week felt different, lighter somehow, not because our problems disappeared, but because someone else was carrying a corner of the load. Michael kept his word. He stopped by after work, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes nothing but his presence. The kids lit up every time he walked through the door. One evening, I came home from a short shift at the gas station to find them on the floor, building a tower out of old cereal boxes. "Dad," my son shouted, "Michael's the best engineer ever. Look at this." The tower leaned dangerously, but stood tall. I laughed, a sound that surprised even me. "That's impressive." Michael winked. "Team effort." I dropped my bag, sinking into the couch. For the first time in years, walking into my apartment didn't feel like walking into a cave. Later, while the kids washed up for bed, I asked, "Why are you doing this, really? You don't owe us anything." Michael leaned back in the chair. "I told you. I know what it's like. And honestly, being around your kids makes me feel useful again." "Useful?" I frowned. "My son's grown. My house is quiet. Too quiet. Helping you, it fills that silence." I studied him, realizing we weren't so different. He needed us as much as we needed him. A few nights later, the storm came. Rain hammered the windows. Wind rattled the glass. The kids huddled close, wide-eyed. "Dad, the power's going to go out," my daughter whispered. "No, it won't," I said, though I wasn't sure. As if on cue, the lights flickered and died. "See," she squeaked. I sighed. "It's all right. I'll light some candles." But before I could move, there was a knock at the door. "Who could that be?" my son whispered. I opened it to find Michael, dripping wet, holding a flashlight. Figured you could use some backup. The kids cheered. I just shook my head. "You're unbelievable." "Yeah," he grinned. "But I brought marshmallows." We spent that stormy night huddled around candlelight, roasting marshmallows on forks over the gas stove. The kids laughed until their cheeks hurt. When they finally fell asleep, Michael and I sat in the quiet glow. "You've done more for us in a week than anyone else has in years," I admitted. He shrugged. "Sometimes people just need someone to show up. That's all." I looked at him, my defenses cracking. "I don't know how to trust this. It feels too good." Michael's gaze was steady. "Then don't trust me yet. Just watch. Time will prove it." The storm passed by morning. The power returned. But something inside me had shifted. As I watched Michael leave, soaked jacket clinging to his back, I realized my walls weren't just cracking, they were falling. For years, I convinced myself we were alone, that no one cared, that it was us against the world. But maybe the world had sent us Michael. A week after the storm, Michael showed up at the diner with a different look in his eyes. Serious. Focused. I noticed it right away. Something on your mind? I asked as we slid into the booth. He waited until the kids were busy with crayons and paper placemats before leaning closer. I've been thinking. You need more than meals and groceries. You need stability. A way forward. I stiffened. Michael, just hear me out. His tone was gentle, but firm. A buddy of mine owns a small repair shop. He needs reliable help. I told him about you. I blinked. You what? He wants to meet you. The pay's not huge, but steady. Enough to get ahead. My chest tightened. I can't just... I don't even have the tools anymore. And what about the kids? I can't leave them alone. Michael smiled faintly. That's the easy part. I'll watch them. At least until you figure out childcare. You focus on work. Let me handle the rest. My son looked up then. Dad, what's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, buddy. Just grown-up stuff. But inside, my world was spinning. Work. A real chance. But at what cost? Accepting this would mean admitting I couldn't do it alone. When the kids were distracted again, I whispered, Why are you doing this? You barely know us. Michael leaned forward, voice low, because someone did the same for me, and because I see the way your kids look at you. They don't see failure. They see their hero. You just need a break, and I can give you that. The rest of breakfast passed in a blur. When we left the diner, my daughter slipped her hand into mine. Dad, did Michael give you good news? I swallowed hard. Something like that. She beamed. You smiled. You don't smile like that a lot. Her words pierced me. That night, after they were asleep, Michael stopped by. He set a small toolbox on my table. What's this? I asked. Starter kit, he said simply. You'll need it for the shop. I stared at it like it was gold. My hands trembled. Michael, I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said softly. I sank into a chair, running a hand through my hair. What if I fail? What if I mess this up? Michael sat across from me. Then you get back up. That's what fathers do. That's what men do. You've already proven you won't quit. Silence stretched between us. Finally, I whispered, I'm scared. I know, he said, but you're not alone anymore. I pressed my palms against my eyes. For so long, I'd carried everything by myself. But here was someone offering to stand beside me. When I lowered my hands, I looked at him and nodded. All right, I'll do it. Michael smiled. Not a triumphant smile, but a relieved one. Good. You won't regret it. The next morning, I woke the kids early. Where are we going? My son mumbled, rubbing his eyes. I crouched beside him to see about a new job. A real one. His eyes widened. Really? I nodded, glancing at my daughter. She grinned, so wide I thought her cheeks might split. Michael was waiting outside with his truck. The kids scrambled in, chattering nonstop. As we drove toward the repair shop, I stared out the window, heart pounding. Fear and hope tangled inside me. For the first time in years, the road ahead didn't feel like a dead end. It felt like the beginning of something new. The repair shop smelled like oil and metal, a mix that clung to my clothes by the end of the first week. My hands were sore, my back ached, but my pockets weren't empty anymore. When I brought home my first paycheck, the kids stared at it like it was a treasure map. Does this mean we could buy more food? My son asked. I laughed, holding him close. Yeah, buddy, it means exactly that. My daughter wrapped her arms around me. I'm proud of you, Dad. Her words nearly broke me. They didn't see my exhaustion. They saw strength. And maybe, for the first time, I did too. Michael kept showing up, steady as ever. He picked up the kids after school when shifts ran late. He helped with homework at my kitchen table. He even taught my son how to change a bike tire while my daughter braided his sleeve like it was hair. One evening, over dinner, my daughter asked, Dad, is Michael family now? The question stopped me cold. I looked at Michael, unsure what to say. He smiled gently. That depends. Do you want me to be? Both kids shouted, yes, without hesitation. I swallowed hard. Family isn't always blood, I said carefully. Sometimes it's the people who show up when you need them most. Michael raised his glass of water. Then here's to family. We clinked glasses, 3 chipped cups and 1 tall one. And for the first time since my wife passed, the word family didn't feel broken. Weeks turned into months. The job grew steadier, and so did my heart. The fear that lived inside me for years began to fade, replaced by something I hadn't dared to believe in: hope. One night, I sat on the edge of my bed, watching my kids sleep. Their breaths were even, their faces peaceful. I whispered into the dark, we made it. But I knew the truth. We hadn't made it alone. Michael had carried us when I couldn't, and in doing so, he'd taught me something I'd forgotten. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. The following Sunday, I took my kids back to the same diner where everything began. Same corner booth, same buzzing neon sign outside. The waitress recognized us. Haven't seen you in a while. Life got busy, I said with a smile. We ordered, laughing and joking as the kids colored on their placemats. Halfway through the meal, my daughter leaned across the table. Dad, remember that first night when you said we couldn't eat out? I winced. Yeah, I remember. She grinned. But look at us now. My son raised his glass of milk. To Dad, the best dad ever. I lifted mine too, my eyes burning. To us, to family, to never giving up. We clinked glasses again, the sound ringing louder than any cheer. Later, as we walk home under the streetlights, my son slipped his hand into mine. Dad, he asked softly. Yeah, buddy? Are you happy now? The question nearly undid me. For so long, I'd carried grief like a shadow. But in that moment, I felt something stronger than pain. I squeezed his hand. Yeah, I'm happy. Happier than I've been in a long time. My daughter wrapped her arms around my other side. We're happy too. I looked up at the night sky, the stars barely visible through the city lights, and breathed in deep. For the first time, the weight I'd carried didn't feel like it was crushing me. It felt like something I could bear, because I wasn't carrying it alone anymore. And as the 3 of us walked down that quiet street, my son's hand in mine, my daughter's head against my arm, I realized the truth. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were living. The streetlights glowed dim above us, and I still felt the warmth of my son's small hand in mine, my daughter's head against my arm. Their laughter from the diner echoed in my ears. Dad, my daughter whispered, that was the best night ever. I looked down at her, smiling through the lump in my throat. Better than ice cream sundaes? She nodded hard. Way better, because you were smiling the whole time. Her words pierced me, soft and sharp all at once. I hadn't realized how much my smile meant to them. I hadn't realized how much I'd stopped giving it. When we reached home, the kids hurried inside, kicking off their shoes and racing each other to the couch. I lingered by the door for a moment, staring at our worn rug, the peeling paint, the stack of bills I still hadn't fully caught up on. But for the first time, I didn't see failure. I saw home. Our home. Dad, my son called. Come sit with us. I walked over and dropped between them, 1 kid on each side, their heads leaning against my shoulders. The room was quiet except for their breathing. Hey, I said softly, can I tell you both something? Sure, they chimed together. I swallowed, the words heavy but ready. There was a time I thought life had abandoned me. When your mom passed, I didn't think I could go on. I felt like the world had taken everything from me. I thought I was too broken to give you the life you deserved. My son squeezed my arm. But you did, Dad. You never gave up. My daughter whispered, you always stayed. My chest tightened, and I pulled them closer. I tried, and you know what? You two gave me strength I didn't even know I had. Every morning I wanted to quit. You were the reason I got up. You were my reason to breathe. The kids were quiet, soaking my words. I could feel their warmth pressed against me, their small but unshakable presence. I thought of Michael, the stranger who became family. He was a blessing, no doubt. But sitting there between my kids, I realized something deeper. I said, my voice breaking, meeting Michael helped me, but the real miracle in my life, it's you too. I thought I'd lost everything, but I was wrong. I had the greatest gift all along. My daughter tilted her head up. Were your miracle? I nodded, kissing her forehead. My children, my miracle, always. My son grinned, even when I leave my socks everywhere. I laughed, ruffling his hair, especially then. The clock ticked in the background, steady and calm. For years, silence in this house had felt suffocating. Tonight, it felt full of love, of belonging, of something I couldn't buy or earn but had been given freely. I leaned back against the couch. We may not have riches. We may not have fancy vacations or new clothes every month, but we have each other. And that's worth more than gold. My daughter lifted her pinky. Promise you'll always say that. I hooked mine with hers. Promise. My son added his pinky to ours. Triple promise. We laughed, the sound echoing through our small living room like a song only we knew. Later that night, after I tucked them in, I stood by their doorway, watching their peaceful faces. I whispered into the dark, not to anyone in particular, but to the world itself. Thank you, because once, I thought life had abandoned me, but now I understood. Life hadn't abandoned me. It had given me them, and as I lay down in my own bed, the quiet wrapping around me like a blanket, I realized something that would stay with me forever. We didn't need more to be complete. We already had everything.